Hey, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all coping okay. I know we're sort of locked down again and it's all looking a bit gloomy, but I'm really positive for 2021 and we've got loads and loads of brilliant stuff to bring to you on the podcast. Thank you so much to everyone who's shared their proposal stories. We've got lots and lots to share with you over the coming weeks. We won't share them all in this episode, but stay tuned because if you have sent us a story either in text or you've recorded your little engagement story, they will all get featured. So thank you so much for joining in, and do keep interacting with us on social media. We're going to up our game and be ever more present on Instagram and Facebook. And we're looking forward to chatting to you and hearing more from you. This evening, I'm excited because we're talking about my favourite topic, which is wedding photography. So Heidi and I are going to talk about what you should be asking a prospective wedding photographer, what to look out for, what not to get talked into, and hopefully it'll be really helpful for those of you out there who are planning your wedding, haven't booked your photographer, and are maybe a little bit confused or a little bit daunted or hate having your photograph taken and don't really want a photographer. So we're going to cover all those topics. I'm just waiting for Heidi to come on board and join the chat. I'm a few minutes early, so she's not late yet at the moment. But until she comes on, I just want to remind you to rate and review the podcast. So most of you, I think, listen on iTunes, and you can go into Apple Podcasts and give it a rating out of 5 and write a few words, a few comments. And that really helps us because the more ratings and reviews we get, the more it shows in search results and the more people find us. So if you do love listening to the show, don't forget to write and review and subscribe as well. So as soon as a new episode comes out, you'll get a little notification and you can be one of the first to listen to our chat and carry on. But yeah, get in touch with anything that you want to share with us, whether it's a proposal story, a big day balls up where something's gone wrong. It doesn't have to be mind blowing. It doesn't have to be, novel worthy or anything like that. We just love hearing from you. Anything wedding related, because if it's happened to you, it will happen to somebody else. Also, any tips or wedding related solutions or tools that you find or websites that you think other people should hear about, get in touch. We will share it all. We're here to be a one-stop resource for everything wedding related. So we like having fun, but we want to make sure that we educate and inform, and we build a community as well around the podcast. So as I said, a happy new year, guys, and let's look forward to a much brighter 2021. Right, let me admit Heidi. She's in my waiting room, and we'll get on with the show. Here she comes, here she comes. Hello.
Hiya, Ross. How you doing?
I'm good. We're recording. We're good to go. We're going straight in. Straight in. I've done my little fancy intro and everything. I'm really proud of myself. So,
and I was on time.
And you were on time, and you've got a fancy new microphone.
Mic. I'm hoping that because the last recording that we did, I was a little on the quiet side, and I do not do quiet.
She noticed. Yeah, I'll pretend that was a technical error. There be no stopping it.
So straight in, and we're talking about planning your wedding, and we're talking about photography.
Yes, I just said my favorite topic, so no pressure. But it is a huge part of your big day, isn't it? It's one of the biggest that you book straight away. Really, you do your venue, and then it is pretty much photographer.
It really is. And I know myself, having been married, she said, scratching her head, having been married for just over 25 years.
Wow.
My grown-up kids absolutely love looking back at our wedding photos. because there are people in there who are no longer with us. There
Yeah.
are people in those photos who were teeny tiny on my wedding day and who are now grown up aunties and uncles with kids of their own. And it's both hilarious to look at those photos and go, oh my God, look, so and so had hair. And quite sentimental as well, because you're looking back at grannies and grandpas and people who aren't with us anymore. So wedding photography is, I think, possibly the biggest thing you're going to book for your wedding day.
I think so, definitely. And like you said, my favorite photo I've got in my house is of my grandparents on their honeymoon. And I don't know who took the photo. I don't know whether it's professional or not. They're just there. They've got, my granddad's got his coat over one arm, he's got his bag in the other hand, but it's beautiful. It's such a lovely memory. And it's the only thing I have that I can see them as young adults with their future in front of them. Before I knew them, before even my mum was born, you always think of them as sort of people, not at the end of their life, but you don't meet them till they're older too. So photography has the ability to, really capture the essence of people, and it lasts for generations. It's going to last beyond your wedding day and even your lifetime without being gloomy. There are people not in this world yet that are going to love looking at your wedding photo. So that's how important they are.
Absolutely. And I think you can worry a little bit too much about capturing a certain style, or I know I've got friends who will shriek in horror at their wedding photos and go, oh my God, what did I look like? And look at my hair. And yet give it another decade or another 2 decades or another 3 decades, people are going to look at those photos and they're going to be looking at that amazing vintage outfit that you wore. And there's so many styles that went dramatically out of it. I mean, when you think how keen everybody is on 70s styling at the moment, and yet, just a few years ago, we were absolutely ridiculing.
It was a big no-no. It was a big sort of comical point. Yeah, definitely.
And 80s with their sort of like, their power shoulder pads. And now, oh my goodness, it's all coming back into vogue. So I think as long as your photography really does reflect you and who you are, then I think you've got something to treasure. And that, like you say, generations to come are going to look back at those photos and go, oh, weren't they stylish? Weren't they amazing? Look at them. So, well, that's what I like to think anyway.
Yeah. That's what your kids think every time they look. Weren't they stylish? Look at them.
Every time my kids do the same thing. Every time, Dad, you had hair.
Yeah.
So I've got questions for you, Ross. So
okay,
on our Instagram account, your individual wedding Instagram account, we were posting a few questions up in the stories today, and we had a flurry of interest regarding a number of things that you would be thinking about ahead of booking your photographer. Now, bearing in mind that it's not something we do every day. We don't think, oh, I'm going to book a photographer to capture me looking amazing and a moment in time. And so the first thing I think that comes into people's heads when they think about booking any element of their wedding day is, how much is it going to cost me? We haven't done this before. We haven't booked a photographer before. So when we are budgeting for our wedding, we are obviously thinking, how much of my budget do I need to put to one side for my wedding photography? So that's my first question to you, Ross. I know it's how long's a piece of string, really, but
it is. I was just going to say, how long's a piece of string? It's very, very hard. I think, although we've just said how important photography is and how it's one of the most important things there is, and I truly believe that, I still appreciate that for some people it might not be. Some people literally just want some snaps, a few shots to sort of commemorate the day that they know they're not going to look at, and so it's not a big deal. So obviously, you're not going to want to spend thousands and thousands of pounds, but I think the best thing to do is to first get an idea of the style that you like, or some photographers that you like, or Not even, it doesn't even have to be wedding photographs, it can just be in general, what sort of photos do you like? And then look at prices, compare prices, and see if there's a big anomaly, because there is a big anomaly with prices. And I've had people say to me, you're X amount, why are you that much more than, the person down the road? And I always flip it on its head and say, well, why are they that much cheaper? Really? Because you're paying for good quality images, but with all vendors, you're paying for peace of mind as well.
I'm just going to say that, Ross, because it's rare. I'll be honest, it's rare. But I have had in the not too distant past a bride and a couple who got married, and they'd got a professional wedding photographer who they had paid, and they have never had their professional wedding photos. They had a few up front. So straight after their wedding day, they had a few beautifully edited, and they really were lovely pictures, a few beautifully edited photos. And then their photographer pretty much went to ground, and they've never been able to get their wedding photos. Now, that's a bit of a horror story. And it rarely happens. But I suppose if you pay professional prices, then you have far more peace of mind that you are getting a professional for whom this is their business, and they're not going to mess you around, and they're not going to.
I think that's it. I think once you realize, one, it's their main job. I always say, get a photographer who, it's their full-time job. One, they're not going to suddenly have to do their other job on that day or cancel or anything like that. It means, pretty much that they take responsibility, and they, check they've got insurance and they're covered and their liability, and all things like that are really, really important. And I think you do get what you pay for. So it's very hard to say, because again, in different regions, so I know there's photographers up north that are fantastic at what they do, but they're cheaper just because of the market, and what people can afford. I do a lot of mine in London, so I hate the term London prices. But one, I have to earn a living, and two, if I go into London, it might cost me 50 quid just to park the car for the day, which I've had before.
There is.
So, and I would say, if you're really serious about photography, you're looking for all day coverage, 1,500 minimum. I wouldn't go too far under that personally. It's very hard to say, but I would think anyone that's sort of, if they're charging 500 all day, no, don't even think about it. A grand, maybe, if you really like them, but for a standard price, if someone sort of said, oh, we're £1,500 plus, I would think, okay, you're taking yourself seriously, you respect what you do, because that reflects it as well. If you're only charging 800 quid, you only think you're worth 800 quid at the end of the day. So it is very subjective, but I would look at, the best thing to do is look at two or three that you really like, and if their prices are all very similar, great, they're all sort of, charging reasonable prices. If one's a lot lower, then I would question and maybe be a bit cautious as to why they're a lot lower. And again, if there's one anomaly that's a lot higher, look into why it is that they're a lot more money. So
can I ask about second shooters? Because
yes,
as somebody who obviously I know a certain amount about wedding photography, because weddings are my world. But when you see that photographers are coming with second shooters, does that mean you're not getting the primary photographer, or does it mean that they are only shooting certain elements of your day? And is that something that you would discuss up front?
I would always discuss it up front. Second shooters can mean several different things. It doesn't always mean you're getting what you think you're getting. So sometimes you can have a second shooter. So if you both sort of are getting ready in different locations at the same time, then you might want a second shooter, to do one partner's prep whilst the main photographer does the other partner, something like that. And then that second shooter might carry on for the rest of the day, and they might do some shots of the guests larking around, having fun, having drinks, whilst the main photographer is off doing romantic shots or whatever. So you get, a mix of everything. Sometimes when it says a second shooter, what you actually get, and I've been hired as a second shooter before now, and actually you're not doing any shooting, you're more of an assistant. So I've been deemed a second shooter and been hired holding lights, which is fine, but the couple aren't really getting what they've paid for. They're not getting a second shooter, they're not getting extra photos, they're just paying for the photographer to have an assistant, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's worth asking, what will your second shooter be doing on the day? A lot as advertisers, you simply get more for your money. Well, that's not always the case. There are second shooters that will stand next to the main photographer and take more shots. Well, then you've just got an exact replica of the same shots from a 2 meter different perspective. You don't want that either. And again, if you're not comfortable on your photo taken, you might not want, an extra pair of eyes on you, an extra camera on you. So it's important not to just see a second shooter as getting, like I said, more bang for your buck, because that's not necessarily the case. And you might not need it. To be honest, I shoot most of my weddings on my own. They get at least 500 photos, usually a couple of hundred extra. They get the candid ones, they get the guests. Most people, I've had so many guests say to me, oh my goodness, is there 2 of you? Because I feel like you're popping up everywhere. And it does mean I'm exhausted. It does mean I'm exhausted at the end of the day. And people say, I've watched you. Like you always seem to sense where the action is, and you're there and you're capturing things. And it is. It's a hard old job on your own, but it's not always essential to have a second shooter. And how many photos do you want? You can promise 1,000 photos. Do you need 1,000 photos of your wedding? Really?
Yeah.
It's quality over quantity. So second shooters can be absolutely fantastic. Don't get me wrong. And if there's logistical issues, if people are getting ready in different locations, or there's so many guests that you want a picture of absolutely everyone that's there, then fine, go for a second shooter. But just be careful and ask a bit more and read into that a little bit more, I would say.
Ask questions. So going back to pricing for
yes,
again, I quite often see that photographers will say, well, it very much depends on how much of the day you want covered.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you want your photographer there capturing those lovely behind the scenes moments as you're both getting ready for your big day, perhaps if you're having one of those reveals that seem to be sort of becoming quite a thing, quite on vogue, you want somebody who's going to capture your ceremony, you want somebody that's going to be there for the speeches, you want somebody that's going to be there to capture some of the action once the drink starts flowing and people start hitting the dance floor. So I'm presuming that there will be a pricing structure as to how much of the day you want covered.
Yeah, that's usually how most photographers set their pricing, according to sort of the amount of coverage and what you get. With that, I think people think, so for example, last year I did a COVID wedding, hate to mention the C word, and obviously it was smaller, there were less guests and there wasn't an evening do, but actually I was there pretty much the same amount of time. By the time I'd done the group shots and was there for the speeches and the romantic shots, and I'd done getting ready, and even if I'd finished a couple of hours earlier, it's still a whole day's work. You're still getting a whole day's work out of that photographer. So I think when you're looking at real good quality photographers, it doesn't boil down to, well, 1 hour is X, 2 hours is that much, 3 hours is that much, or that many photos. It doesn't work like that, because at the end of the day, you're paying for someone's expertise, their time, their editing skills and time afterwards, their ability to put you at ease, their ability to communicate with your guests. That's all part of what you're paying for. So although a lot of pricing structure is based on sort of half day, full day, within that, I think there's a certain price because of, the skills that are involved that the photographer brings to the
Yeah.
table.
So building on that, how do you, as somebody who's never booked a photographer for your wedding before,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know that the person you're booking has those skills? So I completely appreciate that what you're paying for is, as you say, things like, can this photographer, I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. I don't like staring down a lens. So am I booking a photographer who is so skilled and so experienced that they are going to catch me off guard? They are going to get lovely, intimate images of me and my partner as we sort of laugh and enjoy that sort of newly married moment. How can you possibly know that you are booking that person and that you are getting that kind of value for money?
So there's three things I would say really. So first is referrals. So you might ask around friends that are already married, or if you've been to a wedding and you saw a photographer there that you sort of like the look of or the vibe of, then that's a great place to start because it's tried and tested. Secondly, reviews are really good. And I say this about any supplier. Don't just look at whether they've got 47 5 stars or 150 5-star reviews. Actually read the reviews and then look for common sentences and common phrases that people have put. And you'll quite clearly see what that supplier's strengths are. So for me, a lot of mine are, there's loads that say, put us at ease, really stress-free, really calm. And those words are constantly repeated throughout mine. I mean, that's even helped in, say, my marketing, because I know that that's what I bring, because that's what my clients have told me I bring. So it's sort of reading between the lines and seeing those common things. You might see another photographer and it might talk about their sense of humor, or, the look of the photos, or, how quickly they worked, or something like that. So look for common themes. So if you're looking for someone that puts you at ease, or that captures you as you are, then read reviews and see if that's what's repeatedly being said. I think that's really key, because I always say reviews are, website copy and social media is what the photographer speaks about to book you and get your money. Reviews are what's said after somebody's paid their money and had your service. That's the big difference, really. So it's really important to hear what other couples have said. And the third thing is, when you're looking at a photographer's work, can you see yourself fitting in with these photos? And be honest. So there's a photographer that I absolutely love. And I also, if I get married, this is the woman I would have. And she's not cheap, and that's fine. And her photos are absolutely stunning. But when I looked a little closer, everybody in her images look like they're, off the set of Made in Chelsea or something. Do you know what I mean? They are really, or Twilight. Or
come on, Ross, what are you saying?
Do you know what I mean? They are absolutely stunningly, which is nothing wrong with that. They're all stunningly beautiful. And then you start to think, and it's the same with sort of, say, Pinterest as well. Are they an absolutely incredible photographer, or have they just marketed themselves and showcase photos that feature stereotypically beautiful people? Does that make sense?
It does. It completely makes sense. It completely.
So look at images and yes, see if people are laughing and having fun in the images and are looking natural, because I think everyone nowadays can tell quite easily whether it's someone's forcing a smile or whether it's genuine laughter. So you can see that quite quickly. But look at the people in the images. Do they look? Obviously they look beautiful and they look their best because it's their wedding day, and a skill. I think takes more skill to make everyday people look and feel great than it does to get a 6-foot model and just snap away. You could do that on an iPhone. So I think, one, ask for reviews and recommendations. 2, read reviews and see what the wording and what other people have said, and read between the lines and look for common phrases. And 3, see if you can see yourselves fitting in with the photos of that photographer.
Yeah, I think that's all really, really good advice. Really good advice. Again, you quite often see. I mean, you like me probably look at a lot of the online wedding forums, because we get asked a lot of questions on there that we can very often answer for people that are trying to plan their weddings, and this is a whole new world for them. And one of the sort of key things that I do see a lot about wedding photography is that sort of, how do you know, how do you know if the person you're booking is a good photographer? So I think that advice, talk to other people. I mean, you and I know, because we look day in, day out at wedding photography. You can instantly see somebody's style. You have those sort of very fresh, clean fine art images. You have the very documentary style images. You have the very traditional images. You have those that really embrace color. You have those that really go for the sort of mean and moody look. And like you say, I think it really is about sort of trying to picture yourself in those images. Perhaps look at your favorite photo of you and your partner, and what is it about that photo that you love? Is it the lighting? Is it the way that you're looking at each other? Is it the environment that you're in? And then sort of try and translate that into the wedding photography that you're looking at and that you perhaps love, and think, well,
absolutely, and have an idea of the wedding that you're going to have as well, because, and your guests and what you're like. There's lots of people that like the natural photos and like a reportage documentary approach, which is lovely. But if your guests are wallflowers and there's an empty dance floor and everyone's sitting there having a lovely time but not really doing anything photo worthy, then that's not really going to lend itself to a documentary photographer.
Sorry, I'm just laughing. There are a lot of, I mean, some of my favorite photos are of those moments when your guests hit the dance floor and they forget the photographer's there, and they're singing at the top of their lungs, and they're throwing some shakes. But if all of your guests are just sat in chairs around there, that's
that's it. And going back to sort of length of time, people say to me, how long do you stay? And I'm like, if there's people there on the dance floor to photograph, I'll stay longer. I love a busy dance floor, and I'm right in the middle of the dance floor. So people are bumping into me and I'm apologizing, but I love it. I suddenly find a second wind after sort of 12 hours of shooting. If people are on the dance floor making shots, I love it.
Where's the photographer?
But yeah, seriously, but you can only photograph what's in front of you. And again, even in terms of colors or style, if you're having sort of a vintage look to your wedding, then you're going to want that kind of vibe with your photography. And how much do you want to look back and remember your sort of aspects of your day, how they were, and how much do you just want a general feeling? There's a lot of filters and there's a lot of sort of overlays that are really popular at the moment, and they're beautiful. And I've avoided them because although I love to sort of enhance my photos and I love to make everyone look the best they can and represent everything in the most beautiful way, I still have a sense of realism. So, if you spent 18 months trying to find the perfect color bridesmaid's dress, and then in all the photos there's a filter on it and it doesn't look anything like what you found, that might not worry you. That might be absolutely fine. You love that style and that's how you want your photos to look. Then that's great. For me, I think because I've also done a bit of commercial work and sort of food photography when I was starting out, where it had to sort of look like what the customer was going to get, I sort of always avoided those sort of filters. And I think,
I'd be seriously pissed off if my gorgeous cream and peach and blush bouquet is over filtered and it ends up looking, I don't know, brown.
This is it. And I've known people on style shoots, like a florist worked with a really well known and well regarded photographer who is wonderful, and she was like, they were brilliant photos, but actually that wasn't actually the color of the bouquet that I sent in to be used. So you've got to think about those things as well. How much of a true representation do you want your wedding photographs to be? So I think that's a big factor as well. And I think when you narrow it down, when you get to a sort of look and a certain approach, and also it does come down to personality. You have to meet your vendors, especially the ones that are going to be there on the day, because I have a sense of humor, but I also, from having worked with all sorts of people before I was a photographer, I can assess a room, I can assess a mood, I can sort of look at the crowd and think what's appropriate. So, you know, I'm not going to come with loads of, I hate this word, banter, or loads of inappropriate jokes that are going to upset your auntie. That's not me. So those are things to think about as well. The photographer is going to be there all day, getting in on all the action. There are some that will do anything to get a shot. And will sort of upset guests and don't mind pushing people out of the way and sort of bossing people around and putting people's nose out of joint because they want a certain shot. I'm not like that, but at the same time, you learn over time that you have to be assertive. And sometimes if somebody is in the way, you need to say, excuse me.
Who takes priority? So if you have booked a videographer for your wedding day and you have booked a photographer for your wedding day, who takes priority? Do you end up having showdowns with videographers?
You shouldn't do. They should work well together. They don't always.
I like the should.
They should. I mean, I worked with a guy. I think I said this before on another episode years ago, and he had I think it was like a second shooter, but sort of a trainee. And he jokingly said to them when I was there, "Oh, best thing to do is just follow the photographer around all day, and that's where all the best shots will be." So then in the evening, he said to me, "Oh, your arm's in most of my shots. You're always in the way." I thought, well, you've told me from the start you were going to follow me around. So what do you expect? Come up with your own angle. So, but most of the time you do work together, and very often you find that obviously you've got a similar approach because that's what the client likes. So it's very rare that you sort of get a sort of a clashing of personalities.
Yeah.
And you learn sort of from videographers. I'm never precious about sort of knowing everything or being the one that has to, if people say, couples say to me, we've got no idea about photography, we'll leave it to you. That's absolutely fine. But again, if a couple, say, "Oh, can we try this?" or "We've had this idea," or "We've seen this," then yeah, of course we can try it if it's reasonable and safe to do so. I'm not precious. And the same with videography. You might work with someone and say, "Oh, that's great. I'm gonna use that as well for a still shot," or vice versa. And I think that's the attitude you've got to come with. You're both there for the client, really. You're both working for the client. You're both employees on the day. So there's no room for egos. There's too much going on.
So again, you mention the photographer's character, and you might have some photographers who are quite confident about telling people where they want them to be. You might have some photographers who, as you say, might speak in a way that your great Nelly would find inappropriate.
Yeah.
So how do couples find out about the photographer's personality?
I think it's really important to meet up, or at least have a Zoom chat with them. I think you just pick up on a vibe a little bit, and I think if they're active on social media and they've got a good website, you do get a pretty good sense of who they are and what they're about, and even their work to a certain extent. So I love sort of capturing candid moments, and I'm semi-documentary, but I do like the stylish romantic shots as well, and always have to throw in the group shots. But I'm not. I suppose I'm always sensitive, probably because I wouldn't like it. I don't do a lot of sort of candid shots that are really unflattering. Like you said before, I capture joy, but I tend to wait till people are smiling or laughing or looking happy, because I think it's more flattering. And I would prefer if someone did that to me. And I think that says a lot. So that you can get one incredible documentary photographers whose work I love looking at, and you think, well, wow, how did they capture that? But it's not necessarily the most flattering, and I think that says a lot about the personality, not in a good or a bad way, but I think how they approach photography, how they shoot people with a camera, not with a gun. That I think you can tell a lot from people by their photos.
Yeah,
I think it speaks
I mean,
volumes.
like I say, you and I look at wedding photos on Instagram and Pinterest, and I can almost tell you without looking for the name who has
Is,
shot
yeah.
the image. I'm very familiar with a lot of the region's sort of more experienced photographers, because you see their work a lot, and straight away, you look at that lighting or that particular accent color, or they capture people, and without looking, I can almost straight away say, I know who that is. And I think that is, again, really good advice for couples to take their time to do a little bit of research before actually booking their photographer. So look at things like their social media, like you say, look at their reviews, talk to other people, have a conversation with the photographer themselves. So then I come down to availability, because obviously this is a real big one. You don't want to do all of that research and pin your hopes and your heart on a photographer, only to find out that your date is not available. So is there a balance, Ross, between taking your time and really finding out about your photographer, or seeing somebody and thinking, do you know what, I'm just going to book them?
Yeah, there is a balance. You do need to research, because the last thing you want to do is book someone and then find someone else and mess people around, or sort of be disappointed. So I think it is really important to do some research. There's nothing wrong with being honest if you inquire with someone and saying, we're looking around a few photographers. I would rather somebody said to me, we're currently only at the stage of looking around and we're checking your availability. I can't guarantee that somebody else isn't going to come and steal your date in the meantime. But I don't think there's any harm in saying, we're doing some research, we've shortlisted you as someone we like, we're still looking around. Is it possible, are you free on this date? Can we come back and ask for a chat in a couple of weeks or something? I think that's the best thing to do, because at least then I've got time to say yes or no, I'm not free. I can always come back to you and say, okay, somebody's inquired for this date. Do you want to have a chat, or are you still looking? As long as once you've made a decision, you let the other photographers know. I think the worst thing is hanging on, sort of saving a date, penciling the date, and it turns out they've gone with someone else and they've sort of not let you know. And I know wedding planning is stressful, and I know there's a lot to think about, but I do think a little bit of courtesy goes a long way, because
especially at the moment, because obviously at the moment those dates are being moved quite a lot. It's really helpful for everybody involved if you sort of keep your suppliers in the loop.
Totally.
I've been doing a lot of emailing today, as you will have done.
Yes.
On people who have booked us, to say, are you going ahead with your original date, or I know your original date can't go ahead now, and what are you thinking, what are your plans? So at the moment it really is helpful for everybody to keep your suppliers in the loop about
totally
whether or not you've decided to postpone, cancel, not go ahead. It just helps everybody an awful lot. So let's get down to the detail then. So we've talked about the cost, we've talked about how you find that perfect photographer, and then it comes down to things like how many images am I going to get, what sort of format are they going to come in, and when am I actually going to receive them after my wedding day? Because that's the exciting bit. You're sat there thinking, can't wait to look at the photos now. You've seen all of those awful grainy iPhone snaps. Now you want the real deal. So what are you actually getting for your money in terms of the number of images and how they're going to be delivered and when you're going to get them?
So one of the things I always say is, before you ask those sort of questions, you need to have an idea of what you want the answer to be yourself. I think there's so many things online where it's like, these are 20 questions to ask your florist, these are 20 questions to ask your photographer, which is fine. But if you don't know any better, or you don't know what you want to hear, the answers are going to be kind of meaningless. So me personally, I always guarantee you get your photos between 4 and 6 weeks after your wedding. They're pretty much usually within 4 weeks or long before that, but I'll say 4 to 6 weeks. I always edit in chronological order. So somebody whose wedding was the Saturday after yours will never get theirs before you get yours. I keep it fair like that. How many images? I usually say me shooting alone for a whole day, at least 500, can be up to 700, can be up to 800, depending. Not always. You're better off with quality rather than quantity, to be honest. And sometimes there's some of them are very, very similar, but it's surprising when you do a group shot or even a shot of the couple, a slight change in head position or expression between liking it and loving it. And that's not always my decision. What I think is a lovely smile, somebody else thinks, I look hideously cheesy. So sometimes I give enough, I don't spam them with photos. I make a lot of creative and quality decisions as to what is used and what's cut. But people know how they see themselves and how they like to be represented. So I give them enough choice that, I prefer A to B because of that one placement of my hand or hip or whatever. So usually a minimum of 500. Really, it is quality over quantity. I mean, if you're wanting 800 photos, exactly what do you want? Do you know what I mean? If you're looking at, and I always tend to say, if people suddenly ask, how much are you and how many photos do I get? Again, you're not valuing their expertise, you're not valuing their skills or their style or anything else that we bring to the table. You're not approaching it from the right angle. And I tend to know immediately whether they're going to get back to me or whether they're going to look at my prices and be like, oh my goodness, he's a rip-off XYZ because, and actually interestingly, just before I go on, going back to sort of knowing a person's personality, most of the couples that book me, where I've got the bit on my form that says, tell me about your wedding, the more they fill in about their wedding at that point, the more likely they are to book me, I've found, actually.
Yeah, I get that.
So I think they've already read about me, they connect to me, they want to share their excitement with me. So there's already that connection. And 9 out of 10 times, if I have a big meaty paragraph to read, I usually end up getting booked by them. If it's just can we have your brochure or your pricing brochure, 9 out of 10 times they won't book me. So that's really interesting. And
the house, isn't it? If somebody's viewing your house and you can hear them saying, oh well, such and such would look really nice there, and perhaps we could take that out, and perhaps if we painted that this, already sort of investing their hopes and their dreams and
totally
or their aspirations in this space. And I suppose it's the same with photography. If they're already thinking, well, if this photographer knows this much about our wedding day, then it's really going to equip them well to
and again and they've obviously seen themselves in my work and can apply, or we could have that shot there, or he could shoot us this way and because our venues like this. And so I think that's quite telling as well. In terms of products, most people, it's quite new, like you say at the start, a lot of people aren't used to booking a professional photographer to have photos of them. They're even less knowledgeable about sort of professional prints and albums and things like that. And it's very hard at the start to know what to offer, because me looking at suppliers, you could offer endless frames and canvases and artwork and albums, and you kind of have to go to what matches your brand. So I think usually, if you like a photographer's work, their products are probably going to be the ones that showcase that work best of all, really. So I use albums. I use a company called Folio. They're quite organic. They've got like one of their ranges for their covers is vegan. They have minimal sort of boxing, and it's sort of like minimal waste and plastic and things like that. And that sort of aligns with my values and my work, and my work looks good. There's other companies that do sort of it's ultra glossy, and the albums are almost metallic, and they're really massive, and it just doesn't match my work really. So I sort of stepped away from that. So you might have seen a friend or a family member and love a certain product, but it's probably the wrong way around to be viewing it, really. I think connect with the photos, and your photographer should know or should have chosen products that fit best with that type of photography.
Okay, so I think we've answered most of the questions that we were asked on the Instagram account.
Good. Do I get the job? There are a few more people to interview, but we'll be back to you by Tuesday.
Ross. So you're on the short list, but I'll get back to you in about 2 weeks' time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
But one last question I wanted to ask is, people, generally speaking, don't feel terribly confident in front of a camera, just because even in the world of selfies and what have you, we've got filters, we can choose when and how we're photographed, we can edit those images ourselves to make ourselves look as good as possible, and we can choose whether or not we're actually going to show them to anybody.
Yeah, of course.
Wedding photos, it's a bit different, because people expect, they've been to your wedding, they want to see your wedding photos. So if somebody is anxious about having their photo taken on their wedding day, what can you do to set them at ease, and what reassurances can you give people that they don't need to worry, that they are in safe hands?
I think going back to sort of knowing if a photographer is right for you, if you're anxious about being photographed, or you're self-conscious about your body or any aspect of how you look, you need a photographer who you can be open and honest with. And I think that's really important. So you have to look beyond someone's work and look at that person behind the camera. And I want to be, and I aim to be, that person who, people can say, I really don't like the size of my bum, I'm really conscious about my nose. And I would never judge them. And I would totally understand. And I would say to them, well, this is what we can do. If you're worried about this part, we can put you in this position, or we can cover you up here, or we can use that lighting, or we can do this. So I think it's about finding someone that, first of all, you can be open with and honest. I think that's really important. I think a pre-wedding shoot is really, really helpful. I think some people who don't like being photographed think, oh my goodness, I'm not paying for an extra set of photos when I don't like being photographed in the first place. But it can really, really help. I think for the way I shoot, because it's quite laid back, people are often surprised on a pre-wedding shoot how little they have to do, or how little they have to change or put on an act. And I think that's quite a powerful message that I try to send to them quite early on. One of the first things I get them to do is walk towards the camera holding hands. And I always say to them, I want you to walk. There's two things I need you to remember. One, walk slowly. Two, don't look at the floor. That's all you've got to do to start with. Walk slowly, don't look at the floor. And then I always joke, I was like, you nailed it, you've done it, you can walk in a straight line, you've passed the first test. But actually, it's a really basic shot, but they're looking at each other, because they're never so laughing, but in a photograph, you don't know why someone's laughing, they're just laughing, or they're looking around. And as soon as possible, it's making them realize that I'm not going to, ask them to contort themselves into, impossible poses. It's not about that. I'm not going to whack a filter on them. I'm not going to shoot them from, up in the air to get rid of a double chin like a selfie. Once I think people realize quite quickly that they are photogenic and they can nail being photographed with a minimum of fuss, I think that's when they feel at ease. And because it's not just them, because there's someone else there, so you're not just photographing. I'm the same. I hate having my photograph taken, and I don't ever really want to lose that feeling of not feeling comfortable in front of the camera, because I think understanding that is a big part of what I do and who I am and what I bring. But if I'm with my niece, I would have loads of photos taken, and I pretty much love all of them, because it doesn't become about me and individual facial features or what I'm wearing. It becomes about a moment and a memory and a relationship. And that's what your photos are going to be on your wedding. They're not going to be, you're not photographing the sum of your parts. That, you're not going to look at, hips, nose, ears, whatever it is you don't like. It's going to be a moment and a memory, and you will look amazing. You'll feel amazing. So that's the first thing. You'll feel great on your wedding day, because people always do. That makes you more comfortable. Then you're going to look great. So I think you look your best when you're relaxed and when you're with people that you love. So
absolutely couldn't agree more. I mean, you and I have had this conversation away from the podcast, and I think I told you that one of my mum's favorite photos was taken at a family dinner, and I'd got my fancy SLR camera on the dinner table, and my daughter picked the camera up and pointed it at my mum, and my mum wasn't really looking at the camera. She was looking at my daughter, and she was smiling at her granddaughter, and she just had that very sort of relaxed, I'm smiling at my granddaughter face. It wasn't like, oh god, there's a camera pointing at my face. And it's one of my mum's favorite photos, and she does look absolutely amazing in it, because she's got that sort of grandma glow. She's happy to be smiling at her granddaughter. And I think that's quite a big thing. I think if you are put in a position where you forget really that you're on camera, this is more about the moment and smiling at somebody, and just sort of that moment of
it is making it more than just a means to an end. So like with a pre-wedding on a wedding day, there's so much going on that you can forget there's a camera there most of the time. There's so many moments that are so natural, from the vows to the confetti to the speeches. You can easily forget the camera's there. With a pre-wedding shoot, obviously it's a little bit more set up, and I always say it always feels a little bit more staged, because if I don't direct you, it's just me following you around a park, and that looks really dodgy. So there has to be a bit of direction. But actually I never photographed straight away. So we would always walk to the furthest spot and then start shooting our way back to wherever we started. And that's deliberate, because you're starting with a conversation, and I love shooting outdoors and usually sort of nature in the countryside or London. There's loads to talk about, there's loads to see, there's loads to interact about. So it becomes an experience in itself. It becomes something you remember doing together anyway. So it's not just but also just quickly going back to sort of making people feel comfortable. I get a lot of people with the greatest intention of the world. They say to me, "Oh, why do you need to specialize in same-sex weddings or LGBTQ weddings, or they're just weddings now." Interestingly, it's straight people that say that, not gay not gay people, and they don't mean it in a horrible way. They mean it with the best intention, but it's another thing that people can feel self-conscious about. People want to be captured just as a couple in love. They don't want to feel like, what does the photographer think of me? Is this the first gay couple he's kissed? Is he going to make a big deal that he's suddenly done a gay wedding? Is he going to tag everything with, look at this gay couple? But people do. And I had a couple that booked me, and they were like, we went to another wedding fair, but suppliers were either really dismissive, or they were so excited to do like a token gay wedding that it put us off. And I think that's that, as much as, for people that don't like being photographed, it's about not making it a sum of all their sort of physical features. It's also about not making it a feature of their sexuality and who it is they love. It's just about those emotions. So I think that's why there's still so many people that search specifically for an LGBTQ wedding photographer, because they know it's just not going to be an issue, and it's not going to be a big deal, and they're just going to be seen as another couple in love. And I think that's really important to remember as well.
I think that's probably part of your research, isn't it? It's looking at the weddings that the photographer has photographed in the past. It is talking to that photographer, finding out a little bit about them. And it's all part and parcel of your research, because you don't want to be the specimen wedding. You don't want to be the token.
Yeah, exactly. But also look at, listen carefully to a photographer's language when they talk about your wedding photos, because to me, I'm hired by the couple. It's their photo. It's my work, but it's their photos. When I've been a second shooter, I've worked with photographers who have taken a photo, show me the back of the screen and say, look, the groom's ruining my shots. He's not smiling. He's really awkward. And one, I'm like, well, one, it's your job to put them at ease. Seriously, that was said. And two, it's not your work, it's their work. You're ruining their photos because you're not making enough effort. And I learned a lot. I hated working with that guy, and I'd signed up to do about 10 over the summer, and it was an awful summer. But I learned so much about who I didn't want to be, and how I didn't want to treat people. So, make sure that sort of you want someone that has limits. So there's certain things I won't do photographically or, in terms of editing or anything like that. But it is still their photos. They have to take ownership. So the more comfortable they feel, the more they feel they can have input and they can give feedback, the more they're going to make it feel like they're their photos and their memories, and they've had more of a part to play. So I think to me, that's really important as well.
Yeah. That's lovely, Ross.
Thank you.
That's some really helpful points for people that are looking for a wedding photographer. At the top we said, this is tricky. This isn't something that we do every day. We don't sort of wake up in the morning and think, I think I'm going to book myself a professional photographer to capture me and my partner. So it's a whole new world. I'm going to break into song.
Well, one new microphone and she thinks
she goes, a whole new world. So I just think all of that is really helpful, and it does just boil down to research, getting to know your photographer, and having realistic expectations, but making sure you communicate those. It is all about communication at the end of the day, and
totally.
The more you speak to your suppliers and the more they speak to you, then that you're compatible and that you're going to get what you're paid for.
Absolutely.
What people are looking for. So before we completely wrap up,
look at all the technical terms. Before we wrap up,
I want to do some quick fire questions. We've not done any quick fire questions. Do you fancy it? For it?
Go on then.
I've put you on the spot, haven't I?
You have, because I didn't. We'll be honest. We were going to have a guest this week, and we were preparing questions, and then when the guest sadly couldn't make it, I thought, well, I won't do the questions then. So
I'm going to take the opportunity to hope she gets well soon. So we were supposed to Rami of Coco Bridal Boutique.
Yes.
And we will be speaking to Rami of Coco Bridal Boutique, but just not for this podcast. And she's going to be chatting to us about the whole choosing your wedding dress process.
Yes.
But unfortunately, Rami woke up this morning feeling very unwell. I'm hoping and she's hoping it's not the dreaded. So I hope you get well soon, Rami. It's a real shame, but we will be speaking to you.
Yes, we're sending love and healing vibes, and we're looking forward to speaking to you as soon as possible, as soon as you're well.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do my quick fire questions, even if you haven't prepped any. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to put you on the spot. It's mainly because my daughter got one of those would you rather games at Christmas.
Oh, did she?
I actually had to think about this. I should have told you. Put loads of time into this. So Ross,
yes.
Would you rather eat in a Michelin-starred restaurant on your own or go for a picnic with friends?
Picnic with friends.
Oh, you are good. Oh.
Well, I was wondering what you were going to say, because the first question I was like, yeah, I'll do that. That's all right. And then I was like, actually.
Yeah, all by yourself. Billy No Mate sat in the corner eating gourmet food. But no.
That wouldn't bother me, to be honest. It'd be a cheaper bill, wouldn't it?
True. But I don't know. Eating on your own? Yes, I suppose sometimes it can be.
My partner does. It doesn't bother my partner at all. Because my partner's an only child. Before I met him, he used to go to all sorts of restaurants on his own. He still will if I'm away. He'll go somewhere for a meal. It doesn't bother him. So yeah, it wouldn't bother me. But I would. As much as I like a nice restaurant, I'm quite happy with a picnic and friends. Especially as I haven't seen friends for quite a while, so I think I'd go for friends. As
long as it's not raining, I'd definitely go Michelin-starred restaurant. If it's raining. The brain for anybody. So if you could invite anybody, this is very food related this time. If you could invite anybody over for dinner, I'm gonna say famous. I don't want this
famous.
Mabel. And any famous person, alive or dead, who would you invite over for dinner?
One person.
One.
Probably Michelle Obama.
Nice. Yeah.
I do love Michelle Obama.
Well, wouldn't she?
She'd be funny. She'd be intelligent. Yeah, she'd be great to talk to. I think she'd be wonderful.
Have a lot to say about the current Trump situation.
She would. Yeah, it would be interesting.
He's been such a big baby.
Oh God. Well, we got 14 more days till he's out. I think 2 weeks. 2 weeks and he's gone.
Yeah, he's going to scream all the way though. Would you prefer to be an astronaut or a deep sea diver?
Diver.
Really?
I don't like space. Do not like space at all.
Oh,
It freaks me out. I can't do sci-fi. I can't do planets. It's too dark. It's unfamiliar. I don't like space at all.
Okay, but
and don't get me started politically on exploring Mars when we've got enough of our own problems in this world to sort out. But never mind. Move on.
I'm moving on. If you could choose any era to live in, what era would it be?
If I could choose any era.
Yeah, any era.
20s, 1920s.
Oh yes, Roaring Twenties. Well, we're about to head into the Roaring Twenties. You know,
we are going to head in. Yes, I've heard this, and I've been telling my friends this. And so my partner's 50 this May, and I'm 40 next May. So somewhere in between at the end of this year, we're hoping to have a 1920s joint party. That's our plan.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh yeah, proper dress up.
So we do 20s. Yeah.
Love it. And then finally, royal family or no royal family?
Oh.
I'm not talking about the sitcom, by the way.
I'm a bit indifferent to them. I don't. That's really hard. That's really flummoxed me. Some of them keep some of them, get rid of others. I think royal family, but they should be a little bit more accountable for their behaviour than perhaps they are. Should we leave it there?
Yeah, maybe. Just a little more accountable.
Slightly more accountable. Yeah, royal family, but make them above the law, below the law, whatever it is.
Excellent. Yeah. So that's my quick fire question round. Oh, you were very good.
Of course. So we have got. I will share a big day balls up in a second. But before that, we've got a lovely little somebody. I can't remember their name. Do you know their name? The lovely couple.
Oh yes. Hang on. I'm gonna get her name for you.
I do apologise for not remembering your name. I've put my phone on airplane mode so it doesn't disturb me, so I can't look it up.
Can you hear my next door neighbours, by the way?
No, don't. I don't. Do I want to know what they're up to?
They're watching the football, I think. I think Man City are playing, and they're big Man City fans, and I just keep hearing. Oh! So I think there's lots of nearly scoring. Let's have a quick look. I think her name is Julia.
She has sent us a little clip of the fact that they designed their own engagement rings, which is a fantastic thing to do. I've not really heard of that before. So here is the lovely Julia sharing a story of how and why she designed her engagement rings.
The reason that Adam and I decided to design my engagement ring together was because of a few factors, really. When lockdown happened, jewellers became appointment only. You had to wear a mask at the appointment, and right at the beginning of the pandemic, we weren't used to wearing masks, and it didn't seem like it was going to be that fun. Adam had asked if I would get involved in choosing the engagement ring with him, and we had originally planned to browse the jewellers down the lanes in Brighton, but again with the pandemic, walking down possibly crowded lanes in Brighton didn't feel quite right. So we found jewellers online, and they let you design your own engagement ring free of charge. You get to meet one of their designers in person, and she drew up the original design for us, which we just had to make little amendments to. when we went to visit them, their office is based in London, so we paired it with a visit to see a socially distanced Jesus Christ Superstar at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, and we just had the best day out together. It was particularly exciting to be talking about the actuality or the eventuality of our engagement rather than this hypothetical engagement we'd always spoken about. So then once we'd designed it and we'd seen the final CAD and we were happy, Adam sorted out the order and I was taken out of copy in our emails. And so I didn't know how quickly it was going to be made. Additionally, because of lockdown, there were delays in sourcing the diamond for us, which meant I really had no idea whether it would be weeks, months, or a year until he had the ring, so was able to propose. So he proposed to me on Christmas Day this year, and it was a complete surprise. I wasn't expecting it at all. It was perfect. I'm a bit Christmas mad. So it was the absolute best proposal I could have ever asked for. And on top of that, I was really excited to see the ring that we designed in person, and it looked even better than I'd imagined it. And I love that I get to wear the ring that we both created every day. And I would absolutely recommend designing an engagement ring to any couple. It was so stress-free, it was so exciting. We've got really lovely memories which will last forever of designing the ring.
That's a really nice thing to do, don't you think? That's such a lovely...
I just think it's gorgeous. And again, I think it's sort of quite reflective of the times, because, you know, she obviously says that it's very difficult to go and visit places to try on rings at the moment. And so, again, very reflective of the time and quite sort of innovative to think, right, okay, we can't go and try rings on, but there's nothing to stop us speaking to a designer and designing something ourselves and looking at the sketches. And I just think it's an absolutely lovely thing.
Yeah, totally.
It's very collaborative. So rather than somebody sort of picking a ring for you, or you saying, no, I don't like what you've chosen for me, I want to choose my own ring. It's just a really lovely, you know, I think it just sets out your relationship. It's a real nice joint thing. So I loved it when she contacted me and told us about the ring design. I thought it was really nice. I also think it's important to mention, because she doesn't mention it in the record, that the designer was a lady called Leanne LeBlanc, and the company was Taylor and Hart. So I'd like to do a little shout out to them. Credit.
Definitely. Wonderful.
So really nice, really lovely. So thank you, Julia. That was so sweet of you to do that record for us. You didn't have to, and you did. And
so we really appreciate that. And we've got some more proposal stories. So we're not going to do any more today, but we're going to spread them out. So we've got a few more to share next time, but keep them coming. Because I know we've just come out of proposal season, and if you haven't listened to our last episode with lots more proposal tips and stories, do listen back to that one, because next month is Valentine's Day, so it's another proposal period. So keep your stories coming. We love to hear them. And now
we really need it.
we do need it. Anything uplifting, share it. And it's jingle time, Heidi. Are you ready for the jingle?
Come on, the jingle.
Heidi and Rossi's Big Day Balls Ups.
Okay, so I was going to get my friend. I still might get my friend to do a recording of this, because it might be slightly different from her perspective. But so this was quite apt, actually, because it's me. It was when I did some wedding photography for a friend, which I don't like. I'm either a guest at a wedding or I'm the photographer. I find it really tricky sort of being in between. So we had to stay. Obviously, it was far away, so we'd booked a hotel B&B. I'd left it really late, so instead of the nice hotel up the road where the wedding was, we were sort of down the road in some ditchy Tudor, unhoovered, unkempt view of a brick wall kind of
We've
place.
all done it.
We've all done it. So that was lovely. And then the staff were really funny with us, and there was some quibble over payment. I'd prepaid, and then they said we hadn't, and it was a bit of a. So it started off really well, and then they wanted us to. I can't remember exactly what the problem was. I think we had to check out, and we weren't allowed to leave our car there to go to the wedding. But before my partner had got up and was ready to go and to move all of our kit into the car, I had to go and do the wedding, prep. So I had to go and do the wedding prep, and then try and get back before checking out time, so that my partner could move the car. Anyway, it's a bit of a nightmare. So I didn't arrive in the best of moods or anything like that. And my friend had got another photographer, so I was like, I'm not going to step on her toes. I do a bit of prep because you haven't got prep covered. Then I leave it, and then I do some in the evening. So the rest of the day you've got coverage. So that's fair enough. But I was also doing a reading at the church, so it was a lot on my mind.
God, Rob.
Things you agreed to.
The ceremony.
Yeah.
I made the cake.
So I did that, and then it was all running late. So I was really stressed, and I've never been this stressed. So I got in my car, and then, oh no, what it was, I remember what it was. This is it. So we had to leave the room. Obviously, we had to empty the room, and we couldn't leave our bags there. But obviously, I was taking the car to do the prep, so I had to do the prep in the car, bring the car back in time to get rid of all our kit, to clear our room before checkout, because they wouldn't keep all our baggage. So I panicked. I didn't know where I was. Started careering down this road. Heard all this honking. Ignored it. Got to the bottom. Realised it was a one-way street.
Oh.
getting really stressed. So I did like a 10-point turn. Went back up the other way. Couldn't find my way back to the hotel. By then it was too late. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to go to the church. I don't know where my partner was. went into the church. He had a face like thunder. And afterwards, because it was a friend from work, all my colleagues at work was like, oh my God, the look on your James's face. I've never seen him look like that before. He looked murderous. What had you done to him? He'd had to carry all our kit and caboose up this road to the wedding venue because I didn't get my car back in time. So then I was sat there. He was really pissed off. I'd obviously rushed back because I obviously had to get there before the bride. Bride was nowhere to be seen. So we were waiting. We're thinking, oh no, has she done a wobbly? Everyone was looking around. They kept asking me, where is she? I don't know where she is. I've just gone down the wrong way, down a one-way street. He's pissed off with me. I don't know what's happening. And she had an argument with her mum. Anyway, she turns up by, 30 minutes, 40 minutes late. The vicar had threatened to cancel it because she had another wedding afterwards. And the poor bride had got her heels caught in the grate and couldn't go anywhere.
No!
So there were no jitters or anything. And it wasn't my fault. But everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And then I had to get up and do my speech, which was all right, thankfully, or my reading.
And then you had to bake the cake. Unbelievable.
Yeah, then I had to make the cake. Yeah, it was just, I would never again mix being a guest and being a photographer. I'm either one or the other. I can't, I'm either in one mode. If I'm shooting and I'm in that zone, or I'm not doing it at all. And it was people that I hadn't seen for a while because people had left where it was an old colleague. So I'd left. So there were people I hadn't seen for a while. So they were trying to sort of chat to me and I hadn't seen them. And then they were saying to me, oh, that's a really good idea for a shot. And I was like, all right, I get it. You don't have to talk to me anymore. I'll go and take a photo with that. And oh no, it was just the actual wedding. The wedding was lovely. And then I had to, sorry.
What happened to her shoe? Did she get her shoe? Or
she had to get out of it. And then I think they had to get something to sort of sort of push the heel out of the grate while she wasn't wearing
down the aisle behind her.
That wouldn't have surprised me. The worst thing was we had to leave early because I had a 3-hour journey back home and I had a wedding fair the next morning. So it was a delightful weekend for me. It was really wonderful.
You're stressing out.
So Kerry, my lovely friend Kerry, if you're listening, thank you so much. I loved being part of your wedding, and I know you love your wedding photos, and they're on display in your home. So I'm glad it all worked out for you, but it was quite stressful. And if you want to record your version of events, you are more than welcome. So yeah.
Do it, Kerry. We want to hear it from your. I need to know, at what point did you realise you were stuck in the grate? I need to know this.
You do.
This is important stuff. Fantastic. So if you have your own big day balls up, then we want to hear from you.
You do.
We've had them all, haven't we? We've had bridesmaids going face first in the mud. We've had best men falling in canals. We've had brides trying to shave their armpits outside church. We've had your lady getting stuck in a grate. So if you think you've got a big day balls up that compares or even beats any of those, then we want to hear from you. Just email us, direct message us, do a little recording for us, and we will share your big day balls up.
Absolutely. And like we said, hopefully we're going to have Rami next time talking about choosing your dress or your outfit, and give you some advice on that. But what would you like us to talk about as well? So if you haven't got a balls up or a proposal story, but you're a keen listener and you want to have a say in what we chat about, we're all ears, and we're happy for suggestions and questions, and we'll do our best to resolve any issues or conflicts that you do have. So get in touch. Your _individual_wedding on Instagram. It's the best place to follow and direct message us. And obviously I'm a photographer, so I'm Ross Bush Photography, and Heidi is Glorious by Heidi. So we're not just podcasters, we do actually work in the wedding industry when we're allowed to.
Yeah, when we can. We'll get back to it.
Lovely chatting, Heidi. And stay positive, and we'll speak to you all in 2 weeks' time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.